8:35, Bloom Daddy, thanks so much for joining me. So word of another confirmed Ebola virus case in Texas has people on edge again. And this story raises all kinds of questions about how far hospitals are going to protect their employees and other patients against the spread of Ebola. Because you would think that Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital would have pulled out all the stops, yet we have another case of a nurse now coming in contact with Thomas Eric Duncan and getting the Ebola virus. So Tricia Holderman joining me now out of Dallas. She's with Elite Facility Systems, 32-year-old firm specializing in hospitals. And she's internationally recognized as one of the leading authorities in the field of cleaning healthcare buildings. Tricia, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so you would think that Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital would have pulled out all the stops, but, I mean, is it safe to say that they did not?
They probably did. From everything that I'm hearing on this side of the world, they have put everything in place that should be in place for any kind of this type of disease. So we call it disease-specific care and cleaning. And the guidelines there, and I'll preface all this by saying, yes, I've worked in hospital for 32 years. I have Crohn's disease, so I don't have an immune system. I have never once in 32 years gotten an infection. So, again, those protocols and processes were put in place to save people. And for someone with no immune system to never get sick means that they actually do work. So somewhere along the line, and that's not to say that it's to blame her that she did something wrong. It could be a pinprick in a glove. She could have sneezed. That's a reflexive thing. You put your hand to your mouth. There's a number of things that could have happened. So it's not just that she may have done something wrong. There are other circumstances that could warrant a breach in an infection control protocol.
So, Tricia, your firm specializes in hospitals, the cleaning of hospitals. How would you go about cleaning Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital? What kind of protocols in place?
Well, you would obviously be using all the correct PPE, which I've got to believe that they are at this point. A hospital-grade infection prevention, an infection-grade disinfectant. So we also have to clean, and so a lot of people think that cleaning is the same as disinfecting, and it's not. You can disinfect a surface, but if it still has blood on it or vomit on it, it's not clean. So you have to clean first and then disinfect. They have probably gotten rid of just about everything in there that is fabric, like the draperies. The linens are probably being thrown away as they're being cleaned. They're also preventing as many people going in there as possible, which means that the food service is probably just coming to the door and handing it off. Cleaning service is probably not really happening at this point. They have a nurse who is changing the sheet, probably picking up any spills or anything like that. But I doubt that they actually have somebody going into the room on a daily basis to do the cleaning at this time. We don't do that with what we saw with the CREs and the AIDS when we first started cleaning after those. So I doubt that they're sending anybody in there that isn't clinically needed in there.
You've been doing this for a long time. If your company was called on to clean a hospital who has an Ebola patient, do you think that you would have employees who would be hesitant, even with all the protocol in place?
I doubt it. Again, because this is all that we do, and we have cleaned, wow, I mean, some of the stuff that we have had to clean is just as scary as this. So, you know, we've done CREs, we've done C. diff, MRSAs, we've done so many droplet type isolation cases that we're pretty good at what we do. I mean, I'm thinking, you know, everybody's going to make sure that they're following every single protocol. I think there's going to be some hesitation on rushing in, but I do believe everyone on my staff is definitely up to that.
Talking to Tricia Holderman, Elite Facility Systems in Dallas. Tricia, when you take a look at this story that's going on in Dallas, right where you are, and you take a look at the hospital in question here, Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital, do you think other hospitals across the United States are watching this story and are prepared in case they have to handle somebody? Do you think that they are doing everything they can do to protect their employees and other patients against the spread of Ebola?
I actually don't think it's just America watching this. I think the world is, because the health care across the world is very interested in knowing what's the best way to do the preventive measures and the employee measures. So I do believe internationally everyone's trying to give us advice, but they're also trying to learn from it.
When you saw the pictures, and I'm sure you saw them because I did, of Thomas Duncan outside of his apartment when he puked and vomited and everything else on the sidewalk, and they were just using a pressure washer to spray it off initially. Nobody had on any protective gear. What was going through your mind?
Well, first off, there is a big difference between hazmat cleaning and infectious prevention and infectious disease cleaning. So hazmat tends to get rid of whatever there is, whereas infection prevention and control actually cleans up what there is. So we kill the germs. We don't just disseminate them. That did freak me out, I have to tell you. I was going, well, if we know that this is a possible Ebola case, why are they not containing it? So it really should have been treated as a hazardous spill, much like you would with a hazardous spill from a truck accident or something.
All right, Tricia, I really appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, that's Tricia Holderman, once again with Elite Facility Systems in Dallas. Donna, you're on with Bloom Daddy. Good Monday morning to you, hon.
Good morning. I'm really happy that I was able to get through to you.
Well, thank you for calling.
Well, I have firsthand experience of what might happen, and I'm in total agreement that it would be wonderful if they would quarantine these people, not in an internment camp, but in a hospital. I'm what we refer to as an arrested case of tuberculosis.
Okay.
When you have tuberculosis, you are never cured. It is arrested. And in the 60s, I was found in a regular hospital to have tuberculosis. I thought I had pneumonia. They sent me home and said, we have a hospital. You have to go to the hospital to be treated for this. And so I was then called upon and put into, not forcibly, but because I didn't want to spread it to anyone, I was put into the Howard Marcy Hospital. It's the old Leach Farm Hospital in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I then was told I would be there for 30 days. However, when I arrived there and they did a review of the case, then we found out that anyone who was put into a tuberculosis hospital had to have 6 consecutive negative cultures. Each culture you had to expectorate into a bottle, and then they baked this in an oven, and if it tested negative, it took not 21 days, it took 42 days for each culture.
Wow.
I was told I would have to have 6 consecutive cultures and be in the hospital for that period of time. If after 5 consecutive cultures, if you were lucky enough to have them test negative, they didn't trust you to have someone that was negative expectorate into a bottle. You had a tube inserted, and you had to swallow this tube, and you had to have your actual body give up this culture. Then it baked for another 42 days. If after the 6 consecutive cultures, it would flip, as they referred to it, and that happened. You could go all those days and a month, and if it did flip, then you had to start all over again.
What decade are we talking here, Donna?
1962 and
Okay.
63.
Yeah, see, that's back when nobody cared about anybody's feelings. It was just simply the right thing to do. Were your feelings hurt over this, or did you understand the process?
I absolutely understood because I didn't want to spread it to, I had a son who was just a couple of months old.
Mm-hmm.
I was very thankful that no one in my large family got this, and we have no idea. People around me were given the tuberculosis time test, and they had the tuberculosis test inserted under their arm to see if they had the germ in them. Not one person in my large family and group of friends had tuberculosis. So they have no idea where I picked this up. But I feel that regardless of the amount of time that I spent there, this could still be done. We had Crescent Hospital here in the Pittsburgh area and Marcy. So regardless of hurting people's feelings,
do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Yep.
I missed all the first things of my son and all of the things of being the joy of a new mom. But you know what? I didn't spread it to anyone because I was in that hospital. So I feel that your idea is not a concentration containment. But I will tell you this, that once you arrived at the hospital, it did become the state's effort to make sure it didn't spread because you could not leave. You were not permitted to leave unless you had that negative culture they stopped you.
Well, and that's all a part of just stemming the flow of what could possibly happen
Absolutely.
down the road. Dawn, I appreciate your call, and I mean, she makes perfect sense.